buses across the region are overcrowded and there is slow and unreliable service, and a lot of buses show up late, but that problem will get worse because the funding will be cut from the government, and TransLink is facing a $600 million budget gap, which means service cuts will happen, and as a result more people will use cars, so then traffic jams will increase, and about 50% of the buses will disappear, and no night bus or West Coast Express service, and sea buses and sky trains will run way less often.
Oh my god. And this is set to start January 1st next year? Is that the idea?
Changes will come into effect starting at the end of this year, 2025, and rolling forward. And over the next 10 years, because we have things like large amounts of buses that we now need to know where to park because they're no longer servicing routes, there are going to be added increased costs. So this is actually going to cost us money by not paying upfront over the next 10 years.
Yeah, so you can help save the bus by talking to your mayor and your MLA.
Okay.
And you can go to savethebus.ca.
Okay.
To find more information.
All right, everybody, let's get started.
Save the bus! Save the bus!
Thank you all so much for being here. We've got a bunch of great speakers. We're going to kick things off with the Indigenous Knowledge Keeper from Nisga'a Nation, Travis Angus.
Travis Angus, Ingolith Dewitwe, Nisga'a Nation of the Treaty People, Vancouver Jugai. I'm a single foster parent for about 10 years for 3 beautiful Aboriginal children. I live in Vancouver as a visitor for the past 35 years. My English name is Travis Angus. My hereditary name is Niasmu. I come from the Treaty Nation of the village of Kingola. I belong to the house of Wilps Nisilisian from the Lucky Boo clan, the Wolf clan. Today we are here for one of the most greatest reasons that I've seen, and it's such an amazing turnout. I'm really grateful for all of you being here today. I put my hands up to the host nations, to the unceded territories of Musqueam, Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh peoples for allowing us the privileges to be here, to live our lives, to educate ourselves, to raise our families, to give us a home. For some of us have left our homes for whatever reason. For my reason, I'm here. But I'm really grateful through the opportunity into having a family, not of the natural way, but to have a family of my own. And being here allows that purpose to happen. So we acknowledge the territories of which we are on, and thank for the privileges that we have for sharing the skies, the airways, the roadways, the water, and the land. But I'm going to bring you back a little bit further. When we acknowledge the territories, we're standing here, basically standing in somebody's living room already, saying we're here. Years ago, our protocols would have that. It would bring us back where hundreds of canoes would arrive on the shorelines of Vancouver 4 times a year seasonally, spring, summer, and winter and fall. During this time, the people of the canoes would land on the shoreline, not approaching shore. They would wait off the shoreline for the people of the territories to line the beaches. Once that happens, call to shore begins. The protocol call to shore is very important of the coastal people. Each chief would take the bow of the canoe. There and then they will begin the call to shore protocol. The people of the canoes will be asking for permission. May we come to shore? The people of the land would be like, why are you coming here? What is your reason to be here? The people of the canoes would tell you if you're coming here to travel through their land, or if they're coming to hunt, to trade, or basically to find a new home for their family. The people of the land would look to them and acknowledge. They would either grant them access, which would allow them to come to shore, which your canoe would approach slowly, and then there you get off on the beach and thank the people of the territory, gifting them and shaking their hands and just acknowledging them for giving that permission for them. If your canoe is denied access, you basically turn your canoe around and leave and come back on the next season and try again. However, if your canoe approaches the territory, you do not ask for permission to come to shore or do the protocol, everybody on that canoe is ambushed and killed because it is a sign of war. People of the lower mainland area, people of the coast, everybody that lives around this area off the coastline, they too will bring ahead the communication that they were coming to their land to land their canoes, where they would ask for permission to come to shore. This communication, if it has happened, then you're expected to be there at the time and the day of when you say it's going to happen. However, if the people of the territories aren't down there to meet you, you turn around and leave, and you start communication again to find out why or what happened, like to find out communication again. So that respect is very important. And basically, you're knocking on somebody's door and asking them permission to come in. So I'm grateful. I had to share that, a bit of our history, but it's so important that we know where we come from and how respectful it is when you're knocking on somebody's door and you wait for them to answer. Our Nisga'a people, when we have when we do our peace song, which is Gawgani, and it's one of the ceremonies that we have within our community that allows us to take time to acknowledge and show where we are in peace. It is called the down ceremony, which is we use with eagle's down, swan's down, and goose down. And the feathers are blown throughout the air. During the time of war, our people used to use this to break the people apart from war, giving us time to collect our hurt and bury our warriors honorably. And it's a peace ceremony that lasts 3 days to 3 weeks. I'll try to do it in 3 minutes.
And I want to start by thanking Travis again
the Mayor of New Westminster.
For bringing us to this space and grounding us in this place today. Thank you for doing that.
This is the Mayor of
Hi
New
folks,
Westminster.
I'm just looking at my name. My name's Patrick. I'm a member of the Mayor's Council. Yeah, not much reaction to that. Wow. Okay. But I'm not here speaking as a member of the Mayor's Council. I can't do that. I'm here speaking as a representative to residents and businesses in a community that are reliant on a public transit system. And I'm here speaking as a member of the UPass generation, somebody who went to school and got a UPass and learned how to navigate this city using that transit pass and realized that transit's the best way to get around this city. Yes. And 20 years later, I'm still relying on transit every day to get around this city. And I want to acknowledge that I'm not here alone. There are other elected folks in this crowd. We have a plurality of New Westminster Council here. We have Tasha and Ruby and Nadine from New Westminster Council here. We've got Allison Gu and Maida Santiago from Burnaby Council are here. Because we believe in transit and we recognize that 1 million people in this region rely on this transit system, and that we can't play political brinksmanship with the funding of this transit system right now.
All right.
I was at a senior center yesterday talking to Mary, a pedestrian advocate in our community. She's been a pedestrian advocate in our community for decades. And we were talking yesterday, and she asked, she recognized that she enters her 80s, she's going to need to rely on public transit to get around because she can't walk this far anymore. And she was asking me, like, how are things going with the negotiations? And I said, first, I can't tell you how things are going with the negotiations, but I wish I could tell you some good news, and I can't, Mary.
Wow.
And Mary is one of those people who recognizes that her, as Dennis said, her freedom is going to rely on a reliable and safe transit system. And we need to fund that system. I believe my mayor colleagues around the Mayor's Council, when they say that they want to build and expand this system, they don't want to see cuts coming. I believe my colleagues in Victoria, provincial MLAs, when they say that they see the value of public transit, they see this as part of the Clean BC plan, they see this as part of the livability of our region, and they see transit intrinsically linked to housing affordability. I believe them when they say they believe that we need to fund and have stable funding for this system. I want to ask them to stop telling us what they believe and start telling us what they're willing to stand up and pay for it.
The provincial government isn't willing to pony up anything.
Because that's what this fight is right now. This fight right now is how are we going to pay for this system? Who's going to willingly stand up and say, look, we need money. We need to raise funds. We
The
need
federal
to,
government
I'm sorry to
came
say
up
this
with
word,
money,
it's
but
a
it's
dirty
not
word
for the
for a politician
operating
today.
budget. It's for the
We have to raise taxes to pay for our
expansion
transit system.
They want to expand,
Now,
but they can't
a lot of
afford to
people are
pay for what
afraid
we've
because
already
there are
got.
people right now stuck in traffic listening to AM radio, angry when they hear that we're going to have to raise taxes.
Right now, the
And
plan is to cut
too many elected
services.
officials are worried about that anger and aren't worried enough about your anger. Being stuck in a system that is getting overcrowded, getting unreliable, facing potential cuts at a time when this region is growing. So you need to be the angry ones. So my message to you, contact your MLA, contact your mayor. Do it by email, do it by phone, and ask them not just to stand up and support the system in concept, but to ask them how they think we should fund this system and what they will stand behind when they're being asked to fund that system, because that's what this fight is about. And I'll just finish by saying, decisions are hard right now. We're in a time of global chaos, and at a time of uncertainty, governments can shrink back and hide from that uncertainty or be cautious in that uncertainty, or they can stand up and lead through that uncertainty. Listen to that beautiful sound. It is a time for elected officials to stand up, say what they are willing to fund, because the livability of our region relies on it, your livability relies on it, the affordability of our region relies on it, and your freedom, as Dennis said, relies on it. So call me, call my colleagues, let's figure out how we're going to fund this system, and let's do it now and stop playing brinksmanship.